Greetings, family. Welcome to Tony's Barbershop. And inside the house, inside Tony's shop, we have the great man Neville Watson. And Neville Watson is running for independent for Tottenham. And those of us who had the opportunity to meet the great man Neville Watson, he's a man with vision. He's a man with integrity. He's a man who loves his people. And what he'll be doing for the next 2 or 3 months, he'll be, canvassing, the correct people to vote for independent of Neville Watson, And I personally know Neville for the last 25 years, and he's a great brother, a great man. In fact, if we had to go through the man's CV, we'll be here for the next week or so. We're already scratching the surface, Anyway, Neville, first thing, how you coming, brother?
Doug, how you doing?
Give that
yeah, good to be in Tony's place.
Yes,
Seven
man.
Sisters home.
Yeah, that's it, man. Home. Well, Neville, the first time I'm going to ask you, because I was prompted earlier on that time, you was on some magazine, Harringay magazine for the health and so forth, yeah. So I didn't know he's a health man, part of the strike.
Yeah. In fact, if you go on to the Health for Harringay, which is part of the NHS health promotion, it's part of the Harringay end of it. I'm featured in there. I was featured in there about a month ago, and I believe you can still go on Health for Harringay, and you'll see me in an apron doing cooking demonstrations.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know we're not talking about the politics, but this is important. This is as important as politics.
Right.
And I'm talking about nutrition and how to retain nutrition in our food. And my passion is, in fact, tackling some of the health concerns we have in our community, and tackling them without using pharmaceutical drugs, prescription drugs.
That's right.
And one of my biggest concerns has been, growing up and seeing in my house, coming from a typically, I suppose, Jamaican household, where we had the thing called the medicine chest. And in this medicine chest, we had loads of tablets and everything within then. It was part of growing up in many African Caribbean homes. And it was just something we lived with, thinking it was the norm to have a medicine chest with just all your medicines in. And that really what brought me to, as I was growing up, I'm trying to understand why we need all these pharmaceutical drugs. So I got involved in understanding nutrition and how food can heal us. And I started to look at the healing properties of food, and how I believe very much that God gave us all we need on earth for our survival, for our nutrition. And through greed, for man's sort of need for, I suppose, for man's need of money, they've created this almost cycle of bad health, so that we then need to fall back on these pharmaceutical companies. And you could probably hear, as much as we're going to be speaking about, why I'm running in Harringay, but the health of Harringay, the health of Tottenham, the health of my people, the health of people generally, especially in the economic situation we're in today, in our society, is awful. And one of the things I'm going to be talking about as well is why we have so many these $1.99 chicken shops in places like Tottenham. And if you go to when I go down to Highgate, Muswell Hill, I don't see them. And it's one of the sort of banes of my life, why we have that. But I understand why they prey on our communities. So it's something that we need to be aware of, and how health impacts our young people and the behaviour of our young people. That's right.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm glad that we're touching that, because to me, our main priority should be health.
Yeah.
You can't talk about God if you're not going to live to do God's work. You can't talk about money if you're not going to live to spend money.
Yeah.
So health should be our #1 priority, and I'm glad you've been able to, see the value of health and so forth. Yeah. Neville, you never just come up on the scene, what I mean? We need to know a little bit about yourself, what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Where did it all start from?
Where did it all start from? For me, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go back to school, because Many people who know me from the days when I went to Edith, well, Princess May in Stoke Newington, and then Edith Cavell, Kingsland Road. They'd say to me, you know, Dougie, that Neville, you haven't changed from school. So that's really nice. You know? I mean, I now take it as a compliment. They said you're still the same. I think, oh, what? So at first I was worried about them saying I'm still the same. You know, but they say you're still the same from school. The way you carry on is still the same. The way you still smile the same way. You still laugh the same way. And I like to think that, you know, I've been brought up. It started really coming from a really sort of stable background, a very strong background, a strong, disciplined family home. When I say discipline, I'm talking about the discipline that today would be deemed as, I suppose, it would bring in social services to the home. That's the sort of discipline I was brought up under, and it's with that discipline, for me, that's kept me and my family on the straight and narrow. When I say straight and narrow, however, it wasn't always straight and narrow, but it showed us the right way. So even if we then strayed, we knew the line to come back to, because we were shown it, the line. So at least we knew the line. And being raised in a home like that, where on a Sunday I was forced, and I say that I was kicked out of the door to go to church. On Sundays for me was morning service, Sunday school, and evening service. So I knew nothing else on a Sunday other than going to church. But I was blessed and fortunate enough to go to a church called St. Mark's in Dalston. And it's there in St. Mark's in Dalston where I learned a lot of my, I suppose, life skills. You know, not just home, but the church. And we had a wonderful choir. And that choir, many young men have come through that choir. In fact, I named one of them, you may know, a guy called Chris Eubanks. Chris Eubank was one of our choristers.
Is that so?
Yes, he was, yeah. He was a junior chorister. He was a young chorister there wearing shorts. I've got pictures with Chris with shorts on, and his brother. So there's a lot of people around now who belong to St. Mark's Dalston Choir. And we were the first, then almost 98% black, full choir. And we sang around the country because we were seen as a bit of a unique item going back in the late 60s and 70s. Black boys and girls with Eton suits and stiff collars, and we sang in Canterbury Cathedral. We ran around the whole country singing in many churches, and they loved these black choristers coming to town, and we would get a lot of people turn up at the church when we arrived. But we, in that church, we were shown and given lots of skills, like we were taught, for example, fencing. Now, fencing is something, what would a young boy like me from Hackney get told and know about fencing from, you know? And we were taught how to fence. That's where I was coached. Football, my passion became my passion. Everything from table tennis, snooker, camping, and I was a cub, a Boy Scout, the whole thing. I mean, we did everything. I loved rambling. I went to the mountains. We rambled. We got shown a life there it stuck with us. And anybody from those days, as a young man, he's he's one of Europe's top fitness gurus. His name's Fitzroy Gaines. He was
Fitzroy, that's at the Tottenham Green Leisure Centre?
Yeah, Fitz was there. He's now the #1 in Europe now.
Okay, is that so?
Yeah, he was a choir boy, and when we meet, and we always talk about those days, how it helped shape our lives. So it was that grounding for me. But it's to take it forward. It's really where I learned the understanding of people, working with different people, and also supporting and caring for your fellow man. And it's there, understand the value of keeping those, understanding that nothing's more important than friendships, nothing's more important than the integrity of people and honesty. And you know, it's all those things in my growing up that really has brought me to where I am today. Okay,
fantastic. As we know that today, you know, you're canvassing, you know, and at this particular time now you're organising, you know, to be independent for Tottenham. The question is now, what made you want to be independent for Tottenham, or run as independent? I mean, give us a little background on why.
Okay, firstly, you know, I would ask the question this way, I suppose, is why get involved with the world, the seedy world of politics?
Okay.
And if you look at politics per se, you know, in terms of the most distrusted group of people, politicians now come just under bankers now. It used to be the solicitors and people like that, but they now bankers, then politicians, in terms of the most mistrusted or distrusted people on earth currently right now. So why get in the world of politics to start with? You see, I believe for a long while, it's within those halls of power that really the movers and shakers are really in reality. Now we can say we don't want to get involved with this game of politics, and it can be seen as a game, but it's where decisions are made.
Right.
It's the central office. It's where, if you're going to change things, you need to be in that office.